Welcome back to the Level Up Show. My name is Pamela Dale, and today we have a special guest all the way from Singapore. Her name is Sarah Hunter. You're going to want to pay attention. Welcome to the show, Sarah. We're going to get into some really cool topics. Tell us about you.
I'm Sarah. I'm a Brit living in Singapore. I'm a hypnotherapist. I'm a rebirthing breathwork practitioner. And what all this means is that I use the depth of of the subconscious. I'm a mindset coach to help you to really achieve your goals with confidence and feeling like the badass that you are.
Mm, Self doubt was something that really touched me when we had our little, do you think you'd love to be on the show kind of talk? And you talked about self doubt. That's something that still plagues me around new areas when I move into something, and a lot of our listeners. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And what are some of your ideas on how to get past it?
Yeah, for sure. I still think that being an entrepreneur, especially an online entrepreneur, is a really special area because I think that it's almost like a portal into so much about yourself, like learning about yourself, of healing things that come up that just don't come up in a normal 9 to 5 because, you've got to put yourself online. Everything's like your ideas, everything kind of lands back on you. Yes, you can have a team and all the support, but it's still
Mhm.
you at the heart of business, right? And so many of our doubts that we have about ourselves, about our place in the world are so intrinsic. They're so like at the depths of who we are because we've been habitually thinking these things about ourselves. I don't know about you, but for me, like quite a few decades now, like these
Yeah.
thoughts have been in my mind. And so you believe them. You believe them to be
Mhm.
true because every time that, you think that someone says something about you behind your back or like something goes a little bit wrong or things don't go to plan, it's just reaffirming whatever that doubt is that you have about yourself. You keep getting more and more proof. And so
Mm.
these doubts, these fears just become more and more embedded in who we are. But that doesn't mean to say that they have to stay there. It doesn't mean to say that they are, in fact, reality. It doesn't mean that they are the truth, all these things that we think about ourselves. It's just the fact that we've been thinking these things and believing them for such a long time. But for the most point, it's complete BS. Like it's not true, right? It's these things that we've learned when we were a child or we've picked up along the way that, maybe those moments when things didn't quite go to plan, but actually you do have the power to shift them. And I really want that to be a point of like, yes, these things happen and yes, they are in the depths of who you are and yes, they're there, but that doesn't mean that you don't still have the power to shift through them, to remove them, to move past them because as I said, like they're just a habit. You're just in that habitual way of like that behavior or that thought right now. So anytime that you, I don't know, stumble on your words and you think, oh, see, there I go again. I don't speak concisely. I don't speak really clearly. It really just is about changing the response, changing how you feel in those situations. And so instead of having the habitual thing being like tearing yourself down and telling yourself what a bad job you're doing, making sure that the new response is something a little bit nicer. And then soon you'll actually rewire those neural pathways in your mind. You'll create a new habit and therefore start to shift some of those doubts that you have.
So, why does it feel so hard when I'm trying to do something different with my life and that same thought keeps coming up? And I
Yeah.
and I really want it to move and shift and change. Why is it so challenging? And what's a trick to kind of get started?
Yeah, and I think it's because again, it's because it's been such a long time, right? Like we don't do this work when we're like 8 years old or 10 or 15, where it's just been the shortest amount of time. So I get that. I get that it feels like it's difficult. And I think because for the most part, we believe it. We believe that it's true because we've had all the proof. So, we don't realize that it is something that we can shift because it's something that maybe our parents told us, or maybe a teacher or someone that we really believed. But it really is about just having the awareness that it's there. And I think the first step is just having that awareness that it's not the truth, that you do get to have a different opinion about yourself or a different belief.
They say you've heard that phrase that last people to notice the water are the fish.
Oh, I've never heard that. I love
Because you're,
that.
'cause you're swimming in it all day long, and I'm swimming
Uh-huh.
in my own thoughts, right? My own
Right.
beliefs about myself.
Mhm.
How do I know that that's even happening? How do I know
Yeah.
distinguish between the truth and what I see as truth? Like I can see it, and it's a truth for me, right?
Yeah. And it really is, as I said, like it sounds so simple, but so difficult at the same time. It's just that awareness piece of like becoming aware that you're in the water, becoming aware anytime that like that thought comes up or that you have that same habit, like when it just comes up because it's gonna come up instantaneously. It's gonna just enter your mind, enter your thought system without you even consciously being aware of it, which is why I work all in the depths of the subconscious, which is why the results I get from my clients are because of the subconscious work. But it's really about becoming aware of that water, like, and it's not something that you're just going to consciously be able to do on your own, like in a day. Like this is a process. If it's something that's been going on for a few decades, for a few years, then it is going to be a process of, a few weeks, a few months of slowly just becoming more and more aware. But I find that with so many clients, like when they have that aha realization that like, actually, I'm really sabotaging myself in this, or actually I really have this doubt every time this happens, that once that happens, that they begin to become so much more aware anytime that it keeps coming up in the future.
So, what's the time frame on something like that? We've heard people say, I've had a spiritual, we've heard, stories of spiritual awakening and things like that. And then the living forward, I think the biggest piece you said there was, you can't do it alone. Was that the line you said? You can't do this alone.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about why.
Because you have so many blind spots, because you don't realize that you're in the water right now,
Mm.
because so often it's such a habit for you that you don't realize that that sabotage is even consciously happening. You don't even realize that this doubt isn't the truth because again, because you've been in this cycle for such a long time, it's just part of who you are that you don't realize that it's not, which is why, yes, you can do it to a certain degree on your own, but like there's also, you can also rewire your own house, but it's so much better getting someone else to come in and do it. Like they're going to be the pro, right? They're going to make sure that everything's done properly. When you do it yourself, it's going to take months maybe to do it, but someone else could do it like in a session, in a week, can move through it so quicker. And you said about the timeline, and it really is a case of, whether you're doing it yourself or working with someone, of how safe you feel to let that belief or that thought go. Usually when people come to work with me, it's pretty quick because they've already made the decision, right? They've already invested in someone to help them to move through it. But it really is a case of creating that safety to be like, okay, who am I if I don't believe X about myself? Who am I if I don't have this doubt? And just feeling really safe in this new identity.
That's really key what you just said. Who am I without that?
Mm,
What are some of the things that you've seen people struggle with around that?
So what's come up recently is addicted to struggle. A bit like, addicted to I need to work really hard. I need to work all of the hours. Like
Mm.
things can't be easy. That they've had things go easy in the past, like really easy sales, really easy launches. But actually there's a part of them that needs things to struggle because that's what they grew up in. I've had people who have commitment issues and, didn't want to have a really long group program. And this is where things have come up for them and sabotage them. That there are so many different ways that this can come up of like the new identity. And quite often it comes up when it's related to success, when people are used to the struggle, they're used to being, someone who didn't do very well, or someone who, had to constantly be working 6 days a week and 14 hours a day. And then actually when things begin to build momentum, when things are growing, when they're doing financially really well, or whatever success looks like for them, they kind of have a little bit of a freak out. And so it really is a case of helping them realize that you get to leave that old identity behind, that people in your world are still going to love you, still going to accept you, like all of these things when you become that new part of yourself. Like it was always there to begin with, that maybe like it's a bigger part of you now.
Attracting dream clients. Everyone in the client game, that's what I kind of do, work with people, right? They're like, Pamela, where do you find all these high paying clients? Where are they? I don't believe they're even out there. I go, they're everywhere. But how do I find them? And I'm like, oh, tell me how they find them. Because I know the answers. Are you do?
I would love, and we haven't discussed this before. Am I okay to do like a little 1 minute practice with people?
Of course.
Okay, so what I'd love for the listeners, if it's safe for you to do so, is to close down your eyes right now. And I want you to imagine yourself in a really beautiful space. Maybe you're in a really beautiful room. Maybe you're outside somewhere, somewhere that makes you feel really comfortable and really like good in yourself. Like maybe there are like flowers in vases. Maybe it's a really beautiful painting on the wall, whatever makes you feel the vibe of like your business. And I want you to imagine opening the door to this room, and whoever is your dreamboat client, whatever their like characteristics, maybe they're people who are introverted, or maybe they're people who are really ambitious, like whatever their characteristics, I want you to imagine welcoming them into that room with you and sitting on that sofa, sitting on that couch. And I want you to tell them everything that they're going to have by buying your product or having your services or being supported by you, the transformation that's available, the results that are available, why you're so excited for them to join, and have them reflect that back to you, that they're so excited to join, that they're so excited to be supported by you, that they're so ready to invest in you, and just stay in this feeling and just let that excitement bubble up within you, that confidence bubble up within you, that they're already there. They're already waiting outside of that door. And all you needed to do was open that door up and welcome them into your world. And that's the kind of practices that I help my clients with when it comes to welcoming more dreamboat clients, of really having that energetic shift that like they're already there. They're already, because they're probably already lurking. They're probably already on the sales page or looking at your content or wherever else that you show up. They're probably already there lurking, not engaging. And it's just a matter of you energetically like opening up to realize that like it's safe to welcome them now, that they're really excited to come and work with you too.
That's powerful. I closed my eyes and did that exercise. And my favorite place is walking on the beach. So
Mm,
I envisioned like the door as well. And they walked in. And when you said, tell them all the things that they can get or and I'm like, you could live this life too. Right. So you could come live your dream life too. You could come do this as well. So that was really
yeah.
powerful. Thank you for that.
You're
In my
welcome.
experience, it's all energy. And that's why I said, like, I know the answer. Like when I believe and know and energetically, they appear on the street, on the plane, all of a sudden an email, my friend mentioned something, they just come from nowhere. And I couldn't have engineered it. Like I couldn't have forced that
Yeah,
to happen. It
yeah.
when that clicked for me, I was like, we're in the money. It didn't matter. We want to go over here. Okay, let's go get another client. It just
Mhm.
it became a, a I get so excited about it. Still in trouble wording it. It it became like a magic toolbox that I have
Yeah.
that I can then yes, that's so, 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 so important.
Because you could have all of the strategy pieces, right? You can be doing all the things, sending the emails, going on podcasts, like all of the things, but you also need to be open to the magic, to
Yeah.
like to be delighted, to see the opportunities when you're on a plane or when you're like meeting other people that you've never met before. Just be open to the magic that people are maybe going to come in unexpected ways.
Being in that mindset when I am on in those places or on a plane, I have conversations. I'm not worried about anything other than how can I serve or you're really cool. What are you here for? And
Mm,
started talking with them and it was really powerful. And it was from me being so open to start with
yeah,
about possibilities.
exactly.
There's a phrase. that I've had trouble with ever since I heard it.
Okay.
I'm just afraid of success.
Mm.
And I keep wanting to call bullshit on that because it doesn't logically make sense to me. Why would you be
Uh-huh.
afraid of having all your like being successful? But yet I do understand because on some level, because some relationships are going to need to change. Some things are going to
Yes.
need to change, right? So can you talk to us a little bit about that fear of success?
Yeah, for sure. So I find that fear of success comes up. And I think we touched on this earlier, but like maybe when you're used to the struggle, and then it's like you stepping into this new identity. So I feel like examples are really good here. So I've had a client who was doing really financially well, but wanted to go to that next level. But actually she didn't know if she could trust the team member. And so for her, success was like if she was gonna she was actually running a new mastermind. If she filled it out, it would mean more stuff on the back end. And she didn't know if she could trust that team member to like to do all the paperwork, if she could cope. And so for her, it was actually better to not fill out that mastermind, to not sell more spaces, because otherwise she didn't know if the team member could cope, i.e., like that fear of success, like sabotaging it. I've had people who have been on like the cusp of a new tax bracket. And so not selling more things actually means a smaller tax bill. I've had people who, maybe they didn't want to out earn a partner. And so staying under a certain amount of money means that they get to have a relationship where their partner still earns more because maybe their partner is still a bit funky, or maybe just somewhere in the depths of them, they still think that the man should earn more money. I don't agree. Thankfully, neither does my partner. But, there's so many things, beliefs that we have intrinsically within us that sometimes that, like, especially if you've grown up as well, I've had this of people who their parents have struggled and their parents have struggled. And so who are they to have success online when they get to have a beautiful life, when they're walking on the beach, when their grandparents had to work in the field for like 14 hours a day? That fear of success is like, will I still be loved? Will I still be accepted? Will I still belong to their story because I'm creating a new story for myself? And I think this is where that fear of success comes in, where it doesn't make logical sense, but
Mhm.
it's just about feeling safe. Again, always comes back to safety, of that self protection, of like, it's okay to step into that new identity. It's okay to be successful.
So does it come down to conversations with people?
How
What
do
do
you
you
mean?
having a conversation with that team member, having a conversation with the husband, having a
I
conversation
see.
with the family. How
Yeah,
do you get
absolutely.
past it?
Yeah. It really is just about being like, okay, I'm running a new group program. I want to sell these spots. This means I'm going to earn hopefully like X amount of money. How do you feel about this? How do you feel about our dynamic changing, or having that? And
Hmm.
you know what? It doesn't always have to be like, maybe more so when it's the person that you're living with. But if it's people who are just in your family, or maybe you don't have a relationship so much with them anymore, maybe they are your parents, but you don't really speak to them, or for whatever reason, that you get to have this conversation with yourself. Like, you don't actually have to logically have it with another person. You get to have this conversation with yourself and be like, look, yes, parents struggled, grandparents struggled, but that doesn't need to be my identity. Maybe they struggled so that I could have the ease, so that I could live this life. Like, whatever it is that you feel like you need to hear, you can also have that, like, that chat with yourself.
That's really huge. I always say you're one conversation away.
Mm. And you know what? It doesn't have to be with someone else. It gets to be with yourself too. With, like, as I said before, like connecting to yourself, connecting to your subconscious, connecting to that part of you, whether it's the fear of success or whether it's the doubt or whatever it is, connecting to that and having that conversation. Like, literally imagine it as a part of you and have a conversation with it.
So true. Such a great conversation. Thank you so much for being on the show. How can we reach you? Everybody's got to
Thank you so
talk
much
to
for
you.
having me. I'm usually hanging out over on Instagram. My TikTok name is just the same. It's I am underscore Sarah Hunter. And I hopefully have a free hypnosis. So the little practice that I took you through, there's something else that's only 3 minutes long, but you're gonna feel so amazing after it. So I would love to invite you to go and get that and experience hypnosis for yourself.
Yes, what a great tool. I've used that and I think everybody should run not walk. And pick that up. We're going to put all those links down below as well and be sure that you connect with Sarah. And again, thank you for being on the show. You've answered my question. Fear of success. Have a conversation with myself.
Thanks so much, Pam.
You bet.